Hi, welcome to the Bass Monk channel. Today we'll be featuring New York area bassist Paul Brusger as he checks out my Upton Upright bass. Also, 2 different ways of amplifying that bass that might surprise you. If you enjoy what you see, please like and subscribe below. Today I have renowned bass player Paul Brusger. He's a A-list bass player in the New York area, and he's here to tell us more about himself. And he's also going to do a shootout between 2 bass amplification systems, and he's going to check out my Upton Brescian bass for the first time. So we'll get his first impressions.
Yes.
But
indeed.
Paul, tell us about yourself in the New York area.
Well, I've been here for the last 35 years,
Nice.
and I've been very fortunate right now to find consistent work. In fact, one particular job I've been doing for over 20 years.
Yeah.
It's a jam session gig on a Wednesday night, so very fortunate to have that. And I've been in the city and have opportunities to play with some great musicians there, and have been able to do some of my own recordings.
Yeah. Now I see you have 4 albums, or CDs as they're called. I like the word album.
Yeah,
and you got 4 here, and we were talking before about how each one of these albums reflect your goal to record with somebody that's one of the traditional jazz players.
Yes.
And I saw it, like, this is your latest one.
Right here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, tell us about who's on this and
Yes, sure.
and your process of recording.
This one is called, it's a little pun, it's called Waiting for the Next Train. And obviously a tribute album to John Coltrane and all the great jazz masters. I have on it probably, it's a quartet session, and on it is one of the great baritone players today. In fact, he's probably won the last 10 years running of Downbeat. Yes, his name is Gary Smulyan. And with him, I have Mike Ladon, a well-renowned player in the New York area and throughout the world, pianist and also an organist. And I have I was lucky enough to have a living legend help me out with this project. His name is Louis Hayes.
Now you seem to go for the living legend, guys. That's like your bag, right?
Well, I think it's always important to have an opportunity to play with these great players because they have such, in part, such knowledge to the music, and they're so authentic in their playing. Yeah. And you can't teach that today. Yeah.
Now your process, these are your original tunes.
Yes.
Describe how you set it up. Some of the, I know the people around the globe that are watching this, they might want to come to New York and kind of hook up and record with these guys. So how do you do it?
Well, basically, most of these players I've met through being in New York City.
Right.
So basically, it's going to see them perform and talk with them after their performance, and somehow maybe get an opportunity to maybe actually play with them in a jam session situation, or just being able to talk with them and discuss what you have in mind and ideas as far as recording your own music, and seeing what if they felt comfortable enough or had the time to devote to your project.
So you did, like, how'd you set it up? Was it a rehearsal beforehand? And
yeah, so once I got everybody scheduled together, which is somewhat difficult for such great players, we basically set up the day before the recording. We just met for a couple of hours. just to run down the tunes, the charts, to make sure everyone is comfortable with the music, and then basically go into the next day. We did this recording at Trading Eighths in New Jersey, and we basically ran the session down in about 5 hours' time.
And do they contribute to the recording process and make suggestions? What if you have to tell them something? Do you feel
right? Sometimes
cooperative.
Yeah. These guys are such great players that they just instinctually know exactly kind of almost what you are feeling. They intuit it so well, but they do have the written music, and sometimes they suggest something, perhaps an introduction to a song, or perhaps a somewhat different ending to a song.
Right.
But basically, they liked what I did, and basically they used pretty much all my arrangements as is.
That's great. And so now you have 4, and this is kind of the formula you do and go to Plan B. Who is the player on that? What do you call it? Your historic figure?
Well, on this one, again, I gravitate towards the baritone sax, maybe because because I do play the bass, so the lower pitched instrument is something that I like to hear and feel. And I have on this one Ronnie Cooper.
So Ronnie Cooper was on Go to Plan B.
Yes. And I have also the late, great John Hicks, who was a member of the famous Art Blakey's Jazz Messengers. So I had those two as the primary figures, and it was a pleasure to have them help me out with that project. Now,
you're also planning a new project, and so you're at the beginning stages of that. Maybe you can tell our viewers the process of starting up a new project. And you plan on making your 5th album.
Yes. I became friends with a gentleman who is based in Europe, in the Netherlands, and his name is Ineke, and he is a brilliant and great jazz drummer.
Where you started, how did you first contact him?
I was contacted to him by a great friend of mine who was a jazz writer. His name is Steve Serra, and he has a great blog based out of California. And in fact, he did the liner notes for Waiting for the Next Train. And he happened to do liner notes for Ineke. And he just thought our types of styles of music, particularly hard bop, would blend well together. So he gave me his number, and we Facebooked each other, and we got in contact, and we've been in contact since. And
so your next stage is to see if you can schedule him to come to New York?
Yep, that would be great, and do a recording.
Possible tour?
Yes.
And who did Eric... What would tempt him to come to New York? Who does he want to play with?
Well, I think everyone's dream, as part of a rhythm section, a bass player and drummer, I think anyone would relish the opportunity to try to maybe record with Kenny Barron.
Right.
Yes. So,
who else would be on your dream team?
Well, again, also, we're both great friends with Ronnie Cooper, so and he has recorded with Ronnie, so we would again maybe have Ronnie, and then maybe another piece, quintet piece, we would add the great trumpeter Randy Brecker.
Right.
Yeah.
Who lives in this area?
Yes, he's on around.
Well, we're gonna keep track of that. In fact, we'll document some of the progress on that, and how, in a future episode, and how you go about and how you make the twists and turns, in managing. I think that would be very interesting to the bass players.
Yes. Yeah. Great.
Great. So we're going to go down into studio now, and we're going to get your first impressions of my bass, the Upton Brescian bass, which I love, and then we're going to plug it in to the acoustic image stuff, which I've used for decades. I have the UpShot, the DoubleShot, and the 10 Plus, and now the new Yamaha Stage Pass 1K. And we're going to get his impressions on it. I know you're old school.
Yeah.
We talked about your eras from 42 to 67. Hardcore.
Keep it simple, stupid.
Really. I mean, that's good. I'm like that, but I like a little more modern stuff too. But in my group Jazzapede, it's straight ahead, and you're always going to school when you play that stuff. You always learn something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, so let's go down and see what he thinks about this.
Yes, indeed.
Great.
Okay.
Thanks for coming
Yes,
over.
thank you for having me.
And I'll put all his links down below. Here we are. He's checking out the Upton Brescian bass, which I've owned for 2 years now. And let's hear it. You saw my old bass. I had a Coldstein bass, and I switched over to this. It was hand built from the ground up. It's the Brescian line. It's got Spiros light, which you call
the Vike gauge.
The Vike gauge.
Mm-hmm.
And you've mentioned that the action is lower than yours.
Yeah, but to each his own.
Yes. So talk about your first impressions.
Yeah, very well constructed bass. It feels really good. Very easy to play. It's really wonderful. Nice full. It's a D neck. And nice healthy fingerboard. Looks like it has some nice, just the right amount of curvature, so you can pizzicato and still play arco just as comfortably. And
what do you think about arco on Spiros?
it's fine. You know, they're not really that well designed for arco work, but it's fine. You know. Obviously, some strings are more geared to that because of the interior might be a little bit softer, but still, the Vikes and the Spiracore are great because you can still play jazz. You can play jazz, yet still be able to bow it. Where the other way around, trying to walk the softer type classical strings is practically impossible. You won't get that jazz growl as you can with these strings.
What do you think of the sound of the bass?
It's nice. It has a nice, rich, full sound. Very, a nice, healthy bottom, and the upper register has a nice, clean sound. So it's a well-balanced bass from top to bottom.
And how about the size of it? It's got big ribs.
Yeah, but still manageable. You can still get around. I mean, you could still get up into the thumb positions pretty well. You're not hindered at all, really. So it's well put together. Yeah, for sure. Good, strong, healthy ribs. Violin corners here.
And how do bass players maneuver around different basses, even if you're touring? And what's some advice about? So you picked up my bass. It's not like your
first
bass.
time. It takes a little while to understand it to some degree. I mean, all basses are different. That's for sure. Some give you something that you might not have on your own bass, and it's kind of your duty or try to understand what each bass has. And
what would be your first thing? Say you got to play a gig, you get this bass. What's the first thing you
probably
do?
Just the standard, right? In playing here in first position, you know, because that's where most bass players make their bread and butter. Is basically 10% of the fingerboard, which is way up. That's all. You know, you don't have to go anywhere else really. You know, the other's gravy, and it's wonderful to walk up and down vertically, but basically, you stay in first position. That's where we make our money, you know. Yeah.
What about finding the D position?
Well, this is great. Well, I like a lot of players like the E flat neck, which is obviously if you're playing, you go to the bout, you would hit an E flat. But this is a D neck, which I'm more comfortable having my lead finger or first finger, and I know that if I go right to the bout, it's going to be right in tune with the D string by playing the D on the G and the D. So you can, you know, and that is your pivot point where you'd like to, you know, maneuver your fingerings, you know. So it's a nice, I think a nice asset to have, you know. But everyone's different, you know. A lot of bass players prefer the E flat neck.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so we're going to go into the next segment, which is the bad word. Amplification. What's your thoughts on amplification, jazz, acoustic, purity, what, old school, new school?
I think it's always important to capture your sound, what you want to project when you play the bass. You want your sound, obviously, to come out first and foremost. And unfortunately, a lot of amps or amplification can distort that and change that, being that sometimes it gets maybe a little too much woofiness or too laden or bottom. And other times, just the opposite. Sometimes you get too much of a stringy sound, a little too trebly, and you don't want that either. So you want that nice, full, rich warmth that you can get. You know, and you want to project that acoustic sound through the amp.
Right. What about your own particular setup? What do you use?
Well, I have myself a David Gage pickup. To me, it's been working great for me, and it's a little unusual. It fits underneath the E string foot. So many pickups here they fit a pickup through the wing of the E string side of the bridge. Mine is right based underneath the foot, and to me it sounds great. Pizzicato has a nice quick response, and it's also great to bow with arco, and it doesn't distort, and you get a nice clean arco sound.
What do you think of my joke about having a $10,000 bass, and the minute you plug it in, it's now a $5,000 bass?
Well, yeah. Sadly, that can be true. You know, when you try to put a real acoustic instrument through anything that's electronic, things can go haywire.
They just go south.
Right.
They diminish in value.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you don't want to do that. You don't want to wreck your nice $10,000 instrument.
So now I've been using an acoustic image for decades, and that seems to be the de facto custom rig to make your bass sound natural. They have a downward firing sub, and that's just supposed to make what you have in your sound just a little bigger. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I've liked that, but unfortunately I have to play many different venues, which I'm required to fill the venue with my sound.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Which then leads to over amplification and a diminish in overall tonality,
right.
And they just want more bass. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
yeah, each room is obviously different, the size or the acoustics of it. You're right. Always battling the outside elements, things that you can't really control no matter what. Yeah. You know. So
the downward firing sub, omnidirectional bass frequencies, very effective acoustic image, good, mm-hmm. A lot of power. But I just discovered playing with the Yamaha here, which has a 12-inch bass woofer and this array. And the array, I found that this array here is at the height of my head, which can be changed. These things come off, and it can be higher or lower. So I see that this array is next to my head, so I get a quicker response.
Yes.
And I was going to check that out with you first time to see what you feel about it. So let's plug in.
Okay, let's do it.
All right, so now the first thing we're playing with is the 10 Plus. Acoustic image, 10.2. So what we have here is a down firing 12-inch, a front forward 12 with a tweeter in it. So let's start playing. Tell me what you think.
Okay.
So what do you think?
It's yeah.
The sound of this amp
has flat. A nice big round, very rich,
can't go wrong.
Full. Can't argue with it. It's everything sounds really warm and deep in the low end, and still it pushes out on the higher end. On the D and G strings.
Okay.
I think yeah.
Now we're going to hook up the UpShot. This is a 4-ohm upward firing, which Harvey Schwartz developed. It's for backpacking. So you can go to a gig with that and just this pull-out head and a backpack. Imagine that, put a wheel on your bass. So
Yeah.
play that for a while, let's hear that. A little more volume. So what do you think of that?
Yeah, wonderful. I think it's very close, very similar, but I think that
The 10 plus
has definitely a little more push.
Yes, so
to the
this
sound.
would be convenience,
Yeah.
very quiet gig.
Yes, right. So I'm sure it's easier maybe to bring around and haul to smaller venues for sure. Yep.
Yeah. All right, now we're going to plug in the newest line, which is the DoubleShot. That's this guy. Now I have the DoubleShot on the same settings. All right, so your impressions of that speaker?
I think I think it's really nice. It has a good blend, and it's strong and pure and clean. I would definitely rank it with the acoustic image.
Yes.
But the image still has a little bit more power or push to it.
The 10 plus?
Yes, but I would certainly probably recommend it a little more over than
The UpShot.
yes.
Right. This is a little bit bigger. It does not fit in a backpack. It's just a
and
little bit
considering
bigger.
it's the convenience and the size and
Two speakers
Terrible.
on each side.
Yeah.
So your bandmates and everybody can,
yes,
hear it.
yes.
All right, now we're going to switch to something that I switch to right now. So stand by while we do that.
What's it?
Okay. Now we're playing through the Yamaha. Everything's flat. You're moaning and groaning there.
Yeah,
What were you-
it's got some rich fullness. It's very it's got some as they say, some balls.
Right, but my whole thing was because of the array, you hear the mid-range, your attack is more true to intonation because of where it's raised to your head level.
Yes, it does have a great response. Yeah. It's almost has that very powerful. Almost the depth of it is very sonic.
Yeah, that's a 12-inch
Qualities are-
subwoofer.
yes.
Now, I notice you have to be careful how close you get to it because it is a subwoofer, but I do use the radial direct box. I can dial in a little more bass or mid-ranges
sure.
and have an extra bit of control over
Yes.
it. And I also use the A-B switch when I bow to bring down the highs. But that's just,
Right.
that's a special little thing I do. But play a little more and...
Yeah.
But I noticed your reaction was quick.
Hear the thump. notes have a nice clarity and punch, even in the upper registers in thumb positions.
Yeah.
And
so we're all saying that these are great amps, acoustic
amps. I mean, you really can't go wrong with any of them. You know, this has a very a quality that is somehow, like you said, the response in itself seems, like you said, more direct, and you can hear it quicker, and which is great. We always want to have something that responds immediately to what we play and how we hear it. You know.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. People said they notice I'm playing more relaxed, and I think that's because I'm reducing the time I hear it from the amp to my hands.
Yep, absolutely.
And even if we're talking about a few milliseconds, when you're playing bop, the time is...
I mean, time is flat. Yes, we know about that. We know about that.
Right.
We gotta...
Let's just, I just want to wrap it up now. Now, one of the reasons I did buy the Yamaha was so the piano player and me could plug in, and I would be
a great
and so it's one source, and if a female singer comes, so it's not just for bass. I bought it for a small jazz duo with a singer.
Yes.
Because the sound quality, but it was unexpected how good the bass sounded. I was like, what? So I've been using it a lot. But this is, say, around $1,000. This 10 plus is around 1,000, 1,200. This speaker here, the DoubleShot, that's around 600, and the UpShot is around 400.
I mean, you can't go wrong with acoustic image, I think, that's for sure. But having this sort of right at ears length, ears shot, you can really, you know, establish something that you might not be able to with the other amps, because you have that sound right next to you, and so not only can you play it and respond, you're feeling it, and that any little, like you said, any quick any delay, right? You know, hampers us as players. So
plus, also that's a super rich low end.
Yes, yes, it just has this incredible, you know, this growl is just a. It's just got a push and a depth to it that is quite, you know, impressive.
Right, and if you have the female singer and the piano and you're all coming out, you're going to mix your sounds together. Whereas when people use separate amps, it's kind of unregulated, and when it comes from one source, even if you're playing at a restaurant, you're sounding good.
Right, there's a great harmonious blend.
Right, and most people come up to you, and what do they say? You guys sound great. What are they really saying? You wanted to say that was an amazing solo you took on the B section in Olio. They're not going to say that. They're going to say, you sound good. But what they're really doing is they might just be talking about the sound of your PA.
Yes, yeah.
Which will get you more gigs. All right, so this concludes an episode. I want to thank Paul. And stay tuned for more. And I'm sure we'll see Paul again in his adventures, bass adventures in the New York area, especially with that recording that you're working on.
Sure.
Let's close.